I see a lot of people being taught to ride their horses in a way that they think is correctly, but is actually causing quite a lot of long-term injuries. In today's video, I'm going to cover what South Carriage is and go over the two most common postures that horses are ridden in that actually are the biggest cause of injuries, such as kissing spine, SI problems and unwanted behaviours such as rushing. So, what is South Carriage? South Carriage is when a horse is carrying itself balanced evenly over both its forelimbs, as well as being able to transfer the weight into the hind end and carrying itself, maintaining a rhythm, maintaining their posture without being reliant on the rider, in simple terms. One of the biggest problems I find is that a lot of horses, people expect them to go like an advanced dressage horse straight away. They like seeing that uphill, up in the neck, tight in the neck really, that outline. They're obsessed with being on the vertical. Most of them are being ridden behind the vertical, and we're going to go through a little bit of why that's a problem today. But when I start, whether it's a young horse, an unfit horse, even an advanced horse, I like to warm them up and work majority of their work until they're strong enough, and that can be, take years to get them strong enough to do the advanced frames. In this sort of frame, excuse my horse, it's not my best bit of artwork, and this is what you would call a forward, down and out. So we're going to cover a little bit about the forward, down and out posture here. The most important part is that where we sit as riders, this part of their spine needs to be pretty strong. For them to be able to take that weight without compromising their back, they need to have a slightly flexed back, which is like a more of a bowing position. For them to do that in the back, we need them to be able to engage their core and shorten this underline here. When this is shortened, it allows the hind end to step underneath them a little bit more, and when that happens, it allows them to come up through the withers, and then that's when you get that more uphill light feeling, so the horse isn't on the forehand, which creates things like rushing. So if a horse is in that positioning, then the neck is the result of the body. So when they're in balance here, their neck will be out. You won't need to force them into an outline. Normally they'll sit just slightly in front of the vertical, and they'll be out to the bridle. They'll be open in the throat latch here, which means that they'll be soft through the jaw, none of them is gritting their teeth and stuff like that. So the biggest problem with horses today, how they're ridden, is there was a little bit of a long and low thing. So when the horse comes down here and they're really long and low, they actually can't lift up through the wither that well. It weights the front end too much. So the horse will quite often be on the forehand, and they are, it's not horrendously bad, but they are predominantly just stretching the neck and they're not lifting up through the wither. And if they're not lifting up through the wither, they can't properly flex the back. They can't properly flex the back, they can't properly step under and through. So the other much more detrimental is we see a lot of horses ridden now low, deep and round, or over bent is sometimes the word. So that's when the horse's frame, if that's their head and neck, it's round like that, and then the back comes here, and then it over flexes there. So you've got lots of problems along this way when the horse's spine is created like this. So up near like C1 and C2, you get something called broken neck syndrome, and that's when the nuchal ligament, which goes along here and attaches to some of the cervical vertebrae, that gets overstretched at this point here, and that can put a lot of tension and pain into the horse there. Here, where the cervical meets the thoracic vertebrae underneath the shoulder blades, C6 and C2 quite often will get quite a lot of arthritis problems and things like that, because there's the pressure, as you can see there, there's a lot of pressure on those joints. And then here where the rider is sitting, the back is hollow, not flexed. So a lot of people will just focus on this point and they don't mind the horse being overround because it makes them feel softer. But essentially when the back is extended like this and hollow, that is when the spinal processes will come together, and that's when you get a lot of problems like kissing spine. If the back is extended here, it means the lumbar spine has to overcompensate. So that's trying to flex to compromise for this, and that's when you get a lot of SI joint problems, and particularly these problems here, and I do see some of this. This is the biggest cause of unwanted behaviour in horses, such as like bucking, napping, rearing, everything that this horse is dangerous, this horse is a dick, you know, all these different things is quite often caused because the horse has been trained in this frame. or even if they are on the vertical, they've been pulled up into that more advanced outline way too early that their body structures aren't ready for it. So yeah, what you want to think about is if you went to Pilates and you were trying to hold your core in tight, you're not going to be able to hold that for very long, and the horses can't hold that for very long when they're even in a good frame. So lots of regular breaks help, things like that. So that's a brief overview of good and bad postures in horses. If you want to see this sort of thing in a lot more detail, make sure you subscribe to our channel.